Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to episode 25 of Chess Basics, Things Every Chess Player Ought to Know. So today we are going to start a new series. This is a series of videos, there'll be 4 of them, looking at chess tactics that we learned from the games of Paul Morphy. So let's say a few words about Paul. He was an 19th century American chess player. He learned to play chess from watching his dad and his uncle play in the parlor of their home in New Orleans. And he was a strong player from an early age. And when he started beating his dad and his uncle, they took him to the local chess club and had him play the players there. And he was able to win games against them too. And there was even a case where a visiting European chess player, Lowenthal, who was a Hungarian and who was quite a strong chess player actually, played some casual games against Paul, and Paul managed to defeat him too. So from an early age, he was a strong player. In 1857, he played in the first American Chess Congress and won that convincingly and established himself as the strongest U.S. player. And after that, he went on a tour of Europe and arranged matches against many of the leading players in Europe and won all of those matches. So he was generally considered at that time, and since too, looking back on it, as the strongest player in the world, although they did not have an official world champion title at that time. The only thing that didn't work out for him was when he went to England, he was hoping to arrange a match with Howard Staunton, who was considered, before Morphy, the strongest player in the world. And for some reason, he was never able to arrange a match, and there's some controversy there as to whether Stanton was dodging his attempts to set up a match or not. But anyway, it never happened. Afterwards, he came back to America and retired from chess. So he had a short career there, but he left behind a legacy of many games that are still studied today for their lessons. He was considered an expert, particularly in the open games. You can see this is a typical open game with all these lines. And Botvinnik said that his mastery of open positions was so vast that little new has been learned about such positions after him. So a great player to study if you want to learn about the open positions. In this position, it's Paul's turn to move, and his opponent, who is not known. This was played in 1848 in New Orleans, so Paul was about 11 years old at this time. And let's take a look at the position briefly. If you look at the material, it's about even. White has an extra pawn, but other than that, the material balance is even. It looks like White has a space advantage, not because of where his pawns are, but just because of his pieces controlling the open files here. And there's a third advantage, which maybe is not obvious here, but White has the advantage in king safety. Now, why is that, you ask? It looks like White's king is a little bit awkward here with its movements restricted by this black bishop. But the queen is actually tied down defending that bishop, and there's no other pieces that are in a position to really jump in and attack White's king. So it's actually pretty safe just sitting there next to Black's bishop. This bishop, for example, is hitting into open space, and the knights here are still a couple moves away from where they can really deliver any crushing blows. Whereas, if you look at White's pieces, he's got the bishop, he's got the knight, he's got this bishop, and he's got his queen all ready to pounce onto the king side of Black. So even though Black has all these pieces surrounding his king, and he may look perfectly safe on the surface, it's really Black's king safety is at issue. Okay, in this position, it's White's turn to move, and there's a couple of tactics. So why don't you pause the video and see if you can find the tactics. And what you're really looking for is the best tactic. You may give yourself partial credit for the other tactic if you find it, but you want to find the best one. Okay, I'm going to give away one of the tactics here. The first thing you can try is, well, the first thing you might have considered is this move, knight takes h6. So this is a valid tactic. And it's just relying on the fact that this pawn is overworked. So if the pawn takes the knight, then the bishop takes the knight, and you've won a pawn, and your attack continues. You still have your bishop and your queen ready to come in. So that's a good move, and it might be the best move. Oh, let's see. There's one other option here besides taking the knight, which is to move the king. But in this variation, you also win a piece. I mean, you win a pawn. For example, you can just retreat the knight if he grabs the bishop, or if he grabs the knight, then you can retreat the bishop and you win a pawn. So this is good for white, and it would be the best move, except that there's a better one. So in this position, do you know what the best move is? Pause the video if you want time to think about it. I'm going to give it away. The best move is bishop takes f6. Now this is just winning a piece outright. If you take, which is what was played, the queen comes in, and now there's no way to stop the mate. So the immediate threat, queen here and there, because this pawn is undefended. If you defend that pawn, queen here, because the knight was not defended. This bishop, although it's all the way back here on b3, is contributing to the attack by pinning that pawn, so the queen can just take there, and that's checkmate. And what else is there? Yeah, that's the problem. After queen h5, you're attacking two different pieces, so you've got two different routes to this g7 square, and there's no way to get a defensive piece to g7 if you move the king out of the way, trying to get your rook to g8 to guard that g7 square. It's just too late. You go here with check. King has to move, and then you go there. So it's game over, and his opponent resigned after queen to h5. In this position, his opponent resigned. Okay, so let's take a look at another game. This game was played between James McConnell and Paul Morphy. Paul was black in this game. James was white. And in 1849, so Paul was around 12. And also played in New Orleans. So let's see. Let's fast forward to the position we want to look at. Let's see. There was an exchange here on c2, and now it's black's turn to move. And I give you one hint. In this position, you're supposed to find the move for black. If you remember the series I did on mating patterns, this is one of those mating patterns. Okay, pause the video if you want time to think about it. I'm going to go ahead and give this one away. This is short but sweet. Knight f2 check. And he really should take the knight and just be down the exchange. But black is winning in this case. But his opponent, Mr. McConnell, decided to let Paul play out his... it's losing anyway, so he decided to let Paul play out his mate here. And this, of course, you should recognize as the Philidor mate, or the smothered mate. So if we go through the steps of that one, just in case you don't remember it, it's after the king goes to g1, the key move is knight to h3. This is a double check. The queen's attacking and the knight's attacking the king, so the king has to move. This is the only legal move. And then queen here is a check, and the king can't take it because it's defended by the knight. So the rook taking is the only move, and then knight up to his mate. So the key thing to remember is that this f2 square has to be unguarded at the end of all this. If it weren't for this knight guarding, blocking the queen from defending that square, this tactic wouldn't have worked. Okay, so that's a cute one, and a reminder that these mating patterns show up even in real-world games. So it's great to have them in your book. And let's take a look at one more game. This will be the last game, but there's a couple of interesting positions in this one. So this is a game between Paul and his dad, Alonzo Morphy. And this is also played in New Orleans in 1849, so Paul was around 12 years old. And let's get up to the first position. It's Paul's got the white pieces, and it's his turn to move here. The previous move was pawn to d5, kicking the knight. And there is a tactic here that Paul plays, which is pretty interesting. It does not actually win material, but it is the strongest move in the position. So it is what is the best move for white here, and it is tactical in nature. And instead of winning material, what it does is it messes up black's position. That's the clue I give you. Okay, pause the video if you want some time to think about it. This is worth thinking about. This is will take some time to puzzle out because there's a few steps to it. Okay, I'm going to give it away. Knight f6 check, and you think, well, what the heck? What's up with that? So you take the knight, and White has just sacked a piece, and everything seems protected on the surface. This bishop is protected, the knight is protected. So how does this work? But it's not really protected because you can take the knight with a tempo. So this is how you undermine the bishop. The bishop takes the knight, and the queen has to take back. And now this bishop is unprotected. So you get a piece back. So you sack a piece in the beginning, you take this bishop, which is a trade, and then you win a bishop. So the number of pieces is the same, but you've messed up black's king side. So that's the tactic. So going back, you have to see it in this position. So knight here unleashes a discovered attack on this bishop, but the bishop is defended. So you have to realize knight here with check gains you a tempo, and then your next move you're going to take this knight and attacking the queen, which also goes with tempo, and then this bishop is undefended. So it's two moves, and then the bishop is undefended. Okay, so that's cool. And then towards the end there's a tactic. So let's go forward. This game was a very back and forth game. Paul made some mistakes. His dad had an advantage for a while, but now Paul is winning again after this move. And of course it has to be played precisely at this point because black has just gained a queen. He's just queened his pawn here. And so he's just going to overwhelm white with his extra material. So white has to strike quickly. And the thing that white has going for him is that all his pieces are positioned here to attack the black king. So they're ready to deliver the final blow. But every move has to come with a really strong threat. Otherwise black will get back in the game. So the options are limited here. And so this is a good visualization exercise. You should take a look at this. And remembering that all your moves need to be forcing moves with white, can you figure out the sequence of moves that ends up in mate? Okay, pause the video if you want more time to think about it. Like I said, it's a good visualization exercise, so I recommend that. So first of all, I'll play a move that's not correct. Bishop to e6 does not do a whole lot here. The king goes to this square, and the queen can't come in and easily attack. Queen could attack on this diagonal, but then the pawn drops. So the best move here for white is to go back to the original position, and then he can still win from this position. So that wasn't a losing move, but it wasn't did not make any progress. No, the correct move in this position is h7 check. So you're giving up that pawn, but notice that the king can't take it. Queen is guarding these squares. The king can't run away because the queen is guarding these squares. He can't take the pawn because the bishop is guarding it. So there's only one legal move, which is rook takes pawn. And now the follow-up is bishop here. And this is pretty straightforward because the queen, once again, is guarding these squares, and the bishop is attacking along that square. So once again, there's only a single move that's legal, and that is rook f7. But now there's a couple ways. There's two ways to take that rook, and both go with check. So they're both candidate moves here. One of them draws, and one of them wins. So which one wins? Okay, pause the video if you want time to think about it. I'm going to give away the answer here. Well, first of all, let's show the drawing move. The drawing move is queen takes. You know, you want to take with the queen because lots of times you can deliver mate, but the rook is defending the back rank here. So when the king moves, you can't go queen to g8 mate. So the king is going to go here, and what else can you do? You can't even check along this file because the queen is guarding that square. Your only move is queen f6, and then the king can go to the light squares. And you can repeat maybe, although you have to worry about the king escaping. The way to guarantee a draw is to check with the bishop, and the king only has one move after each bishop check. So you can do that and get a draw that way, but you can't win. So let's go back. The right move here is bishop takes f7 check. So now you should be able to see it. There's a mate in two. The king has only two legal moves here. And queen's guarding these squares, so he can go to h7 or to f8. So let's look at h7 first. Then queen here, check. He runs to the corner, and then queen h6. This is the checkmate. The queen's guarding these squares, and the bishop is guarding that square, so the king has nowhere to go. Okay, let's back up and look at the other direction. King is in check, and if he goes to f8, then you just move the bishop out of the way, and the king can't run to the g8 square. It's guarded by the bishop. The queen's guarding these squares, so he has to go here to e8, and then queen to f7 is mate. So a couple of pretty mates for you there. And the more of these mating patterns you can remember and see over the board, the stronger a chess player you will be. So h7 in this position, good trick to remember, and the subsequent tactics, the way you chase down that king, always delivering checks and not letting the other pieces get in and interfere. Okay, that's it for today, and we're going to continue next time with some more tactics from Paul Morphy games. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.